Adam Smith is an observer of the Industrial Revolution. He realizes the process of transformation that is going on around him and has profound insights into the mechanics of the transformation itself, what is changing and why. And he offers a generally optimistic view of industrial transformation. He says, why are some nations wealthy? It's because of trade and the division of labor, the expansion of markets. He says that this creates a general plenty, a universal opulence that extends itself even to the ranks of the lowest members of society, that it lifts up even the poor. Even if they're not as wealthy as the rich, they're better off than they had been before these kinds of changes. And so Smith offers a broadly optimistic view of the industrial transformation. And there's something that's somehow utilitarian about Smith's arguments, that this creates a greater good, that it creates more happiness, opulence for the mass of people. And there's also something liberal about Smith's vision, in the sense that Smith sees that people are naturally economic creatures, that they naturally have property rights, and that it's somehow part of their innate endowment to truck and to barter and exchange. So this is Smith's view of the Industrial Revolution that is epitomized in the publication in 1776 of The Wealth of Nations. Let's turn now to a later observer of the Industrial Revolution and move from the world of the Scottish Enlightenment to the world of radical politics in mid-19th century continental Europe, and above all, to the figure of Karl Marx. Karl Marx, like Smith, is an observer of industrialization. Karl Marx, like Adam Smith, is a philosopher. He's a follower in his youth of the great German philosopher Hegel. Marx is classically trained. In fact, he wrote his dissertation on the different theories of materialism, of atomism, in the ancient philosophers Democritus and Epicurus. It's a very, very boring dissertation. Don't recommend you read it. And so Marx, like Smith, is an economist and a philosopher. He's an observer of the Industrial Revolution. But unlike Smith, he is far more skeptical about this transformation. Unlike Smith, he is not a complete optimist. Unlike Smith, he focuses on the negative consequences of industrial transformation. And indeed, Marx lives at a more advanced stage of industrialization. By the mid-19th century, industrial transformation had swept across Western Europe, transformed societies, and the consequences of this were more plain to see. And in particular, Marx came to focus on the oppression, the negative consequences, those who were powerless in the context of industrialization. And so Marx has a very different viewpoint. Marx is not disagreeing with Smith that the Industrial Revolution is a progressive moment, that it represents an advance in the means of production and the technology of society, in the amount of produce of human economy. But Marx is worried not just about the distributive consequences of the Industrial Revolution, but the transactional consequences. And so, as we focus in on Marx as a thinker, as a philosopher, let's focus in on this particular aspect of his thought. Marx was an admirer of Aristotle. He says he's the most profound of the ancient thinkers. And Marx's thought can be seen as a continuing effort to come to grips with transactional justice, as Aristotle defines it, an exchange that should be fair. For Marx, the fundamental problem of industrial transformation is the rise of wage labor. For Marx, the rise of wage labor is the essence of industrial transformation. It is the key point where humans have fundamentally transformed their relationship to property, to themselves, to society, to their legal and constitutional orders. Marx is an observer of the industrial transformation. And for Marx, this is a shift from what we could call feudalism to what we can call capitalism. And Marx is a critic of capitalism because he sees the most basic relationship of this kind of economy, this kind of society, as a failure of transactional justice. because Marx thinks that wage contracts in his society are unfair, that they are a violation of the principles of justice.